Welcome everybody. My name is Jos Bergman and I'm working for Technology2Enjoy as a PeopleSoft consultant. And I would like to give you a short demo on PeopleSoft project costing to show you some of the features. I won't be diving into all of the setup because I would like to keep this video short. But if you're interested in reading more about it, you can open up the PeopleBooks online and I will show you the link in the next slide. What is PeopleSoft project costing? It enables you to record and administer your projects and activities in PeopleSoft. You can also create budget plans and receive transactions from other modules, such as PeopleSoft Payables, for reporting purposes. In the live demo, we will be creating a project with activities. We will be creating and finalizing a budget plan. And we're going to send a transaction from payables to project costing. And we're going to take a look at the reporting feature, budget versus actuals. I'm gonna log into PeopleSoft now, and then we're gonna start with a demo. And I'm gonna go to the project management tab, and for this presentation, for this demo, I've created a project costing tile, a navigation collection myself, so that I have access to some shortcuts, so that I don't have to go through browse through all the menus. Makes it a bit easier for this presentation. So I'm going to click on the project costing tile, and then I've got my menus on the left, my shortcuts. Let's create a project. I'm going to create it for US004 as the unit, and then let me give it a description, live demo, and I'm going to make the project approved. And let's say the project takes about 24 days to complete. You see, you put in, when you type in 24 days, the system automatically calculates the end date based on this option here. You can calculate on end date, start date, or duration. Let me save the page. So now the project has been created, and now let's add some activities to it. And let's see here. Let's start with creating an activity called requirement, and let's add 2 more rows. Select. Let's call this one build or design, and this one, for example, test. And in this way, we're building up a WBS structure, a work breakdown structure. I've got 3 activities now, and let me hit save. So now the activity IDs have been created, and let me just put in duration days of 10 for the first one, 10 for the second one, and 4 for the third one. And you see that the end date is calculated automatically based upon the duration days that you put in, and it's based on the option how you want to calculate it, based on duration, end date, or start date. Let's save this page here. You can also create indentations. For example, you can select activity 2, and then you can click on the indent button, and then you can then you create an indentation so that it will become 1.1. So requirement is now WBS ID 1, and then design is WBS ID 1.1, and in that way you can create an indentation in your work breakdown structure. I'm not going to save this. I'm not going to save this. I'm just going to leave it as it was. You also have your Gantt chart here. So you can see your activities here, and you can see a calendar on the right side, which makes it visual. I'm going to go back. I'm not going to save the changes that we did. Now we're back into the project, and on the right upper side, you see a link here called Project Hierarchy. And this shows you visually in a chart, in a graphical chart, your hierarchy. So the first tile on the top is your project called Live Demo, and then the tiles below are the actual activities: requirement, design, test. And you see the start and the end date in the tiles. You also see the activity health, which is green, and you see if there are any resources assigned to the if there are resources assigned to the activities. You see if there are any deliverables being created in the system, any risks being created, or any issues being assigned to the activities. That information is all here, and so this is a real cool thing to have, that you have a visual overview, like a dashboard of the hierarchy of your project. I'm going to return to the project general page. So now we created a project and 3 activities, and now let's create a budget for it. Let's say this project will cost $100,000 to complete. So let's create a budget for that. I'm going to return to my project costing tile, and then open up the budgeting menu, budget plan, add a new value, selecting my project, hit add, putting in the description, budget. We're going to make it a cost budget. You can also create a revenue budget, but in this example, we will be creating a cost budget. And we use a monthly calendar, and we use a number of periods, 12 months, as of the start date, 26th of March. Let me return to the General tab and open up, let me save it, and open up the budget detail page. And on the budget detail page, we see our work breakdown structure, the 3 activities that we created. And I'm going to create a budget for the first one, requirement, by clicking on the budget items box. And then here I will select a budget item, for example, consulting services. And that's so we're creating a budget for consulting services. I'm selecting a spread option, adjust by amount, and putting in the budget for $100,000. Clicking on the button distribute budget, and hit yes. So now we got a budget for $100,000. Hitting OK. So now we see that the first activity, called requirement, is now assigned to the budget item consulting services, and it has a budget for $100,000. If I scroll to the right of the page, we'll see a button called even spread. I'm clicking on it now, and then you'll see that the budget is being spread across 12 budget periods. On the budget, we selected the monthly calendar with the number of periods 12. So that is the reason why the budget is being spread across 12 periods. So $8,300 per period. I'm going to save the page, and now we're going to finalize the budget plan. I'm going to click on budget plan, finalize, click on the finalize button here. And now I'm going to go to the process monitor. So the finalization is now running, and what the system will do, it will create 12 budget rows and insert those into the project transaction table. And once this is done, we can view those 12 budget rows on the project list page. Okay, the process has run successfully. So now let's return back to the project costing tile here, and let's open up the transaction definitions, the transaction list page here. The project we had was 290, and hit search. We created a budget for the first activity requirement, and let me hit search here. And here we see the 12 budget rows that were created by the system for each month, 8,300, 12 budget rows. So now, let's say the project has started. We have the budget, we're starting now, and we're basically generating cost now, and we have bought some computer equipment and we're generating cost. So we're going to go to payables now, and we're going to create an invoice, a voucher for the purchase of a computer, and then we're going to transfer that. We're going to distribute that cost to project costing so that we can see it appear in the transaction table, and then we can also look at the budget versus actual reporting. So I'm going to return to the home page, and I'm going to open up the tab for payables operations, opening up the accounts payable tile, and I'm going to go to my vouchers, add a voucher, and I'm selecting a supplier ID. Oh, one moment, it has to be for, it has to be for U004. US 1 as the supplier, and then invoice number Dell computer, today's date, cost $1,000. I'm making it tax exempt for this particular presentation as we don't need sales tax. Add. Oh, I already had a duplicate. One moment. Just change the invoice number to something else because I already had created an invoice with the same invoice number. So Dell Computer 2. I'm going to put in an account. Cost of services. And on the distribution line, I'm also going to select the project and activity that we created. So because then you have to select your project and activity, because then the cost collection process knows to which project this cost has to be assigned to, has to be distributed to. So on the distribution line, I'm selecting my project as well. $290, activity 1. So now we have the project costing unit, project and activity selected. And we have an account on the distribution line. Let me save the voucher. And now we can actually post it. running the voucher post. And now let's wait for the voucher to post. Once it is posted, we're going to run the cost collection process to distribute the voucher to project costing. So the voucher is now posted. And now we're going to run the cost collection process. And that will be here, payables. And it was 290, the project. So I'm going to run the cost collection process for payables for project 290, business unit U004. Running the process now. And basically, we already have 12 budget rows in the project transaction list table, 12 budget rows. And now what we will see is the system will add a cost row to the project transactions, a cost row. And that one is coming from payables for the purchase of the computer that we did. We created a voucher for $1,000, and that transaction will be sent to project costing now. And then that cost row in project costing will have the analysis type ACT, which stands for actual cost. And the budget rows have the analysis type BUD, which stands for budget. Cost collection process is done. So let me open up the transaction list. And let me open up the project, which is 290. And we open up the first activity. Hit search. And as you see, we have, as we saw before, we have the budget rows with analysis type BUD, and now we also have a actual cost row, but analysis type ACT, actual cost, and that's the cost row coming from payables for the purchase of a computer, and it's for $1,000. You can also click on the transaction detail, and then you can see the actual, you can see the transaction date, the accounting date, and you can see the general ledger chart fields, the account that is being used on the voucher and payables. Let me return to the project transactions. You can also drill down to the actual voucher by clicking on the drill to source. And now it will open up the actual voucher. You see the voucher ID number 12, the supplier name West Bay Electric, the invoice number you see, and you also see the accounting information, the AP accrual line you see, accounts payable 1,000 credit, expense distribution 1,000 debit. So that information is all here when you want to do a drill down. So now we have the transactions are there. We see our budget rows, we see our actual cost row coming from payables. And now basically we can take a look at the reporting within project costing, and specifically the report budget versus actual. And let's take a look at that one as well. Let's open up interactive reports, and let's open up the budget versus actual report. Selecting my project. And this is the one, live demo. And here we see the budget versus actual report. We had created a budget for $100,000. We have spent $1,000 so far on the purchase of a computer. So the remaining amount is $99,000. The actual cost amount was for $1,000. We can open up the activities. For example, we purchased the computer for the activity requirement. And here you see that we created a budget called consulting. We created a budget for consulting services, $100,000, and we've spent $1,000 so far on the purchase of a computer. So that information you can see on the activity level as well, the details on the activity level. And from here, you can also click on the detail box, and it opens up the actual project budget item, consulting services, and we see here our 12. We see here our 12 budget rows, and here you see for period March 2019 March, we have a budget of $8,300, and we have spent $1,000 so far as an actual amount for the purchase of a computer. And this is through this page you can have a very good overview of what you spent and how much you still have as a budget. It gives you some good information with regard. You can drill down, as you can see, and it gives you a good overview of what you've spent so far and how much budget you still have. From here, you can also drill down to the transaction detail, which takes you back to the transaction list page, where you can also drill down to the voucher as well. And that basically concludes this short demo and presentation about regarding project costing.